Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're tackling something, well, pretty fascinating. We're talking coffee.
Ah, coffee.
But not like, your basic coffee talk. We're going deeper.
Deeper.
Way deeper. Into your gut, actually.
The gut.
Uh-huh.
Always a good place to explore.
Right. So get this. We're talking about the connection between coffee and the microbiome in your gut.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
I knew you'd be into this.
Yeah.
So we've got this incredible study you're looking at, just published in Nature Microbiology. And get this, it involved data from tens of thousands of people.
Wow, that's a lot of data.
Right. They wanted to figure out exactly how coffee impacts, like, all those trillions of bacteria living in our guts.
So it's not just about how coffee makes us feel, but how it affects that inner world of bacteria.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. They looked at 150 different foods,
Yeah.
and guess what? Coffee had the strongest link to the types of bacteria found in people's guts.
Really? Stronger than anything else.
Out of everything. I mean, makes sense when you think about how many people drink coffee every single day.
Yeah, it's basically everywhere.
So you know how everyone's always going on about gut health and the microbiome?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
Well, this research is basically saying that coffee is like a major player in shaping that inner ecosystem. It's like a powerful fertilizer for certain types of bacteria.
That's a great analogy.
So imagine your gut is like a garden, right?
Okay, I'm visualizing.
And all the different bacteria are the plants growing there.
Yeah.
Well, this study's saying coffee can really make certain species flourish.
Interesting. So which bacteria is the coffee-loving champion?
The star of the show, it's called Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus. Try saying that 5 times fast.
I think I'll pass on that challenge. But Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus, I haven't heard of that one before.
It's pretty new to science, actually. Only discovered in 2018.
Oh, wow. So it's a recent discovery. And is it found in everyone?
Well, that's the interesting part. It seems to be super common in people living in westernized countries.
Westernized. Is there a link between that and coffee?
You got it. It's probably because of our coffee drinking habits.
Makes sense. So does that mean it's not found elsewhere?
Pretty much. They found it's basically non-existent in non-westernized populations, children, and even, get this, non-human primates.
So it's like this bacteria is specifically linked to coffee-drinking humans.
Exactly. Like they go hand in hand. Where you find one, you find the other.
That's wild. Did they look at how much coffee people were drinking?
They did. They analyzed per capita coffee consumption in different countries. The more coffee a population drinks, the more this Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus they have.
So it's a direct correlation. Wow.
Huh.
But here's a thought. What about decaf?
Ooh, good question. That's where things get even more interesting. Because it doesn't seem like caffeine itself is the main driver of this bacterial growth.
Wait, really? So what is it about coffee that's giving this bacteria such a boost?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's why the researchers started looking beyond caffeine. And guess what? They found this bacteria is thriving even in people who drink decaf.
So it's got to be something else in the coffee.
Exactly. They think it could be other compounds like quinic acid or trigonolin.
Interesting.
And to test it out, they actually grew Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus in a lab in a petri dish.
Okay, classic experiment.
And when they added coffee, it actually stimulated the growth of this bacteria.
Wow, so coffee really does have a direct impact on this bacteria.
Right. And it's not just about making this one type thrive. They found that at certain concentrations, coffee actually inhibited the growth of other common gut bacteria.
So it's creating a more selective environment.
Exactly. Like it's giving Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus a leg up in the gut ecosystem.
Fascinating. So we've got this coffee-loving bacteria thriving in our guts thanks to those daily cups of joe. But the big question is, so what? Does this actually have an impact on our health?
Ooh, that's the really exciting part. But before we dive into that, let's take a quick detour into the world of metabolomics.
Metabolomics sounds intriguing.
It is. The researchers took things a step further and analyzed people's blood samples.
To see how coffee consumption was changing things at a molecular level.
You got it. They weren't just looking at the bacteria themselves, but wanted to see how coffee was affecting our blood chemistry.
Smart. So what did they find?
Well, unsurprisingly, people who drank lots of coffee and had tons of Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus also had higher levels of quinic acid in their blood.
Which makes sense, since quinic acid is a compound found in coffee.
Right, but here's where the plot thickens. They also found a bunch of other compounds that seemed to be related to quinic acid,
Oh, mysterious
but
compounds.
they couldn't figure out exactly what they were.
No way. So there are these unidentified molecules floating around in our blood thanks to coffee.
It seems so. Like we've got these intriguing clues, but we haven't quite cracked the case yet.
It's a real cliffhanger. What are these mystery molecules and what are they doing in there?
I know, right? It's super intriguing.
The fact that they're connected to quinic acid makes you think maybe this Lawsonibacter bacteria is actually transforming those coffee compounds into something totally new.
Ooh, that's a cool thought. Like it's not just passively absorbing the coffee, it's actively changing things up.
Exactly. It could be creating these new compounds that then end up circulating in our blood.
Wow. So we've got coffee, bacteria, mystery
Huh.
molecules. Where does our health fit into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, right? You see, for a long time, coffee's had this kind of mixed reputation.
Yeah, like is it good for you, bad for you? Who knows?
Right. Some people saw it as a vice, others just a way to wake up in the morning. But in recent decades, research has started to suggest that coffee might actually have some health benefits.
No, yeah, I've heard about that, like reducing the risk of certain diseases.
Exactly. We're talking about potentially lowering the risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, even some types of cancer.
That's pretty impressive. But hasn't it been kind of a mystery, like why coffee seems to be good for us?
Totally. And that's what makes this new study so interesting. Could this Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus be part of the explanation?
You mean, could this coffee-loving bacteria actually be contributing to those health benefits?
Exactly. It's a fascinating possibility.
Okay, so how could that work? What are the possible mechanisms?
Well, one thought is that as Lawsonibacter breaks down those coffee components, it could be producing some beneficial compounds.
Oh, like what?
For instance, we know that certain gut bacteria can produce short-chain fatty acids.
Short-chain fatty acids. Those are good for us, right?
They are. They've been linked to all sorts of good stuff, reducing inflammation, helping regulate our metabolism, and even supporting our immune system.
So maybe Lawsonibacter is boosting those helpful molecules.
That's one possibility. It's like a chain reaction. Coffee fuels the bacteria produces good stuff, and our bodies benefit.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Another theory is that Lawsonibacter might be influencing the overall balance and diversity of the gut microbiome.
And diversity is good, right? Like a rainforest, the more variety, the better.
Exactly. A diverse gut microbiome is generally considered a sign of a healthy gut, more resilient, better able to handle different challenges.
So coffee could be helping to create a more robust community of bacteria in our gut.
Precisely. And that could have a ripple effect on all sorts of things, from digestion to immunity, even mental health.
This is blowing my mind. So
Hmm.
is it safe to say that Lawsonibacter asaccharolyticus is like the secret to a long and healthy life?
Oh, hold on there. It's important to remember this is still pretty early research.
Right, of course.
We need more studies to really confirm these potential benefits and figure out exactly how everything works.
The science is all about asking questions.
Yeah.
But it's pretty exciting to think about, right? Like maybe our coffee habit is doing more than just giving us a caffeine boost.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area of research, and this study just opens up so many new avenues to explore. There's still so much we don't know about the gut microbiome.
It really is an amazing hidden world inside us. So for our listeners out there, what are the key takeaways from all this? All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today talking about this fascinating connection between coffee, our gut microbiome,
Okay.
and maybe even our health. What are the big takeaways here?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is just how much power our diet has when it comes to shaping the gut microbiome. We're talking trillions of bacteria living inside us, right? And they're influencing so many aspects of our health. What we eat can really shift that balance.
Yeah, it's wild to think about this whole inner world, this ecosystem living inside of us.
It really is. And we're only just starting to grasp how it all works, how we can impact it.
And this study really highlights how even something as simple as like what we drink in the morning can have these ripple effects throughout our gut.
Right. Who knew coffee could be such a big player in shaping our microbiome?
It really makes you appreciate just how complex the human body is, how everything's connected.
Mm.
But, this study focused specifically on Lawsonibacter saccharolyticus, but it makes you wonder, what other microbial mysteries are hiding in our daily cup of joe?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg, really.
How so?
Coffee has hundreds of different compounds, and we're just beginning to understand how they all interact with our gut bacteria. There's so much more to uncover.
So each cup of coffee is kind of like this little science experiment happening inside us.
Exactly. And I think we're going to find some really fascinating connections in the coming years.
So while we wait for all those discoveries, what can our listeners do with this information today?
I think the biggest thing is just to be mindful, Pay attention to how you feel after you drink coffee.
Like, does it agree with you?
Yeah, does it cause any digestive issues? Do you notice any changes in how you feel overall? Everyone's gut microbiome is different, so what works for one person might not work for another.
It's all about listening to your body and those signals it's sending you.
Exactly.
And maybe after learning about Lawsonibacter, you'll look at that morning cup of coffee a little differently.
Huh, perhaps. Or at the very least, it's a fun new thing to think about over your next coffee break.
Well said. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of coffee and the gut microbiome.
Great discussion.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, there's a whole universe of microbes living inside you, and they might just be up for a chat, especially if there's coffee involved. Until next time, stay curious.